This program is brought to you by Globus.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, change is unavoidable, but then we focus on the effect of such global changes on society and the world at large. And this brings us to the talking point of today's edition of Global Insight, where we revisit the just concluded World Public Summit that held in the heart of the African Union headquarters at Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, in July 2026, under the theme Africa, a New World. Africa is shaping a shared future, convened by, of course, the World's People's Assembly and the Global Black Center. It should be noted, ladies and gentlemen, that over 2,000 participants from more than 50 countries gathered at the UNIV headquarters to redefine public diplomacy, safeguard sovereignty, and advance African-led cooperation in a multipolar society. So this edition of Global Insider, we are going to stress on the importance of the just concluded summit, how it make its mission and vision, of course, very valuable into this changing world, and of course looking at how sustainable the objective of such a platform is in ensuring sustainable or strengthened civility and public diplomacy in the context of a complex society where diversity of opinion, ideologies have not found a safe place in the sphere of international relations and cooperations, particularly among states. Of course, now the importance of people-to-people discussions or connections. The summit, ladies and gentlemen, rooted also in the Ubuntu philosophy, culminated in a final declaration outlining a shared agenda for public diplomacy, humanitarian cooperation, and people-to-people partnerships. It also proposed an African network of public diplomacy and youth and young leaders alongside initiatives including a Pan-African Center for Global Black Heritage in Addis Ababa and a public diplomacy media platform, among other decisions arrived at the end of the summit, ladies and gentlemen. Together with a panel of experts, we are going to stress more on the importance of such people-to-people discussions, of course, especially under the banner of the World's People's Assembly and, of course, World Public Summit. Without much ado, ladies and gentlemen, we dive straight away, of course, to welcoming the panel for this day. And with much delight, I'll be welcoming for the first time on this platform, Global Inside, in collaboration with Globus, YANINA DUBEYKOVSKAYA, who is head of the organizing committee of the World Public Summit Africa. And of course, she's joining us from Zambia. You're welcome, dear YANINA. Hello, Yanina.
Yes, hello.
Yes, you're welcome to today's edition of Global Insight.
Thank you.
Looking forward to having a fruitful conversation with you. And let's stay in Zambia with MAVUTO CHIPATA, who is the General Manager, Her Voice Foundation, WPA representative. You are welcome for the first time on your discursive program, Global Insights.
Thank you. Thanks to have me.
It's a pleasure. And to Ethiopia, we acknowledge the presence of TARIKU NEGASH, GM Serve Global Ethiopia. Thanks for joining us today. Zambia, we are also pleased to introduce to you Dr. NEGASH LAGOKE, Associate Professor of History, Pan-African Studies at the Lincoln University. And of course, it's a pleasure to have you on this very important discussion that actually zoomed on the Ubuntu philosophy, which you are very keen on, and it's a pleasure to have you this day, Dr. NEGASH LAGOKE, as we continue to understand the importance of the World's Public Summit and how it is going to enhance and safeguard public diplomacy. You're most welcome.
Okay, thank you very much, Clarisse, for the opportunity. And then it's a pleasure to be here with CHIPATA, TARIKU, and then YANINA. And then also, of course, with you in this show. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I will ride up with you, Dr. NEGASH LAGOKE. Just as we do, we always try to contextualize and understand our topic for discussions. And that is why we are coming to, first of all, have your holistic interpretation and appraisal of the just concluded World Public Summit Africa, which actually took part in Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, and of course stressing on its vision, mission, and its importance in today's changing world.
I was very pleased to have been to be in Addis Ababa. I was brought into the project by you, and it's definitely by Julia. And it was a pleasure for me to meet many wonderful people there. I don't have all the names in mind. I know Yanina is definitely one of them. I have met many wonderful people. Segai, the Secretary General of the Global Center for Global Black Center. And it was a great moment because I was not aware, to be honest, I was not aware of that platform. And then for the work that we do as Africans, we want to be where we can, if given the opportunity, in order to monitor the processes, in order to bridge the gap between like-minded people who are working often in a very scattered way. So I went to some other platforms, so I was happy to discover that there were many like-minded people in the field of internationalism who were advancing the cause of public diplomacy. This is what I can say, and I don't know if I answer your question.
To have an appraisal of the just concluded summit from you, Dr. NEGASH, and we are going to do same with the others. And let's take on Yanina, who actually was one of the organizers of this valuable summit which ended in Addis Ababa, stressing on public diplomacy. How can humans or people cooperate in a very complex world that seems not to have, a common place for the different ideologies emerging as a result of the changes happening. You're welcome, Yanina, as you inform us again about what World Public Summit is all about, its vision, mission, and long-term or probably sustainable objectives that can ensure that public diplomacy, which was very much underlined, is given its relevance in helping to make the world a better place.
Thank you, Madam Clarissa. Dear colleagues, I'm so happy to see you again after just a few days after we closed the summit. Yes, let me share with you what happened 5 months ago when we started our preparations for World Public Summit Africa. World People's Assembly, the organization who hosted this event in Addis Ababa, it's 9 years old, almost 10 years old unit of NGO based in Russia, but unite NGO leaders and activists in different fields of public diplomacy from all over the world. So we have more than 5,000 members from 150 plus countries. And a year ago, we hosted first ever World People's Assembly, the huge event in Moscow, which unite people from more than 158 or 160 countries. And so with discourse of unity, with discourse of peaceful humanitarian development of the world, we decide after the summit to launch some events, some summits in different parts of the world. And during 2026, we are done with 3 summits, like we just finished in Addis Ababa. One was in India in March, World Public Summit India. Second, we hosted in Latin America, in Brazil, and it was dedicated again on public diplomacy efforts from different angles. And it was World Public Summit Latin America. And African one, just recently, we hosted in Addis Ababa. Why we are doing this? Because, as you already told, Madame CLARISSE, in any case, no depends what happens in the world. We should build trust between people, between communities, between organizations. And especially we believe in civil society units like NGOs, common projects, international projects in public and civil society field. So we are doing these events together with local partners, together with international organizations, which we engage in different parts of the world. And also we are doing a project calling Leader of Public Diplomacy. So awarding ceremony is an important part of any summits. And we united like about 1,000 of people who applied for this contest. And now we are in final selection of super final list. So we will select 30 people from, I hope, not less than 25 countries for the final award. In Addis Ababa, we also awarded 16 people in different categories of public diplomacy. So we are doing generally it to unite people, to build common future, to stress that not politicians, not even business building the future, but we, people, organizations, civil society, we all can do it together if we find each other and become like the united power for good.
Absolutely, which is very relevant. If think tanks want to actually ensure that civility and of course human-to-human relationship takes the central stage, of course, in the happenings of the world. Let's have from you, MAVUTO CHIPATA from Zambia. Here we have listened to Yanina edifying us on the importance of this summit, and particularly the premiere or the maiden summit that happened in line with Africa's position in Addis Ababa. So we want to understand from you the probably succinct definition of public diplomacy and how the Addis Ababa summit was relevant in placing Africa at the fore in the context of multipolarity and of course changing global power relations.
Thank you. It was really an exciting moment for us to participate at the Addis Ababa conference, and the theme was more importantly that of seeing how we can change the way we invest in Africa, how we can achieve a different model of investment that can result in improving lives of African countries, what sort of relationship we should have with multilateral organizations, other countries, given the historical relationship that Africa and the world has had. And I think that a big take home was that in order to change Africa and the world, we need to change the methods that we have been using now in terms of investment and the relationships that we have had with other countries. But coming to the question that you raised, the current environment is you have a multiplicity of relationships. The new global powers have emerged. We are no longer in the world in which you had two polarized powers, but now you have Brexit, you have the BRICS, you have different regional powers coming through the world. And so this requires then that Africa redefines its position in terms of how it relates with these other different countries, without, of course, taking any side, but doing things that make sure that they mutually benefit Africa and the world together. So we see an opportunity here that we can redefine the relationship between Africa and the world, especially that the view now for Africa should not be that it should be a source of raw materials only, but now it's a big market. The population growth in Africa is very high. So the perspective and the relationship that we must develop with other countries must take into account the changing dynamics, given that Africa is now evolving. For now, that's what I can say.
Thank you, of course, quite relevant at this juncture. If everything is okay with TARIKU NEGASH, we're coming to you to, of course, have your, contextual and conceptual interpretation of the summit. The highlighted key point, of course, we are looking at public diplomacy, sovereignty, and the 21st century Africa-led cooperation that will meet the realities of the world. So how can you relate this with the objective of the summit that was organized in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Am I audible? Yes, thank you so much. This is really wonderful question that you have asked. Basically, how the summit objective has been made in terms of assessing its viewing in terms of how the 21st cooperation should be understood. Basically, my organization, the summit, was given assignment to bring the youth group. As you know, Africa is basically young generation, and we can say that it is a state of young people. So in terms of bringing and exposing the young generation to a multi and different views across the world, it's basically necessary to have such kind of summit and convening so that the youth can have an access to see different views from different worlds. So basically, this summit has achieved to bring people from different corner of the world. You may take Latin America, Russia, Europe, and basically Africa. So in terms of promoting the 21st cooperation, my organization and me myself as youth advocate promotes the exposure and the experience of the youth and to access such international podiums, international summits. So basically, we have achieved to bring more than 700 users from Ethiopia and from Africa, and there were also thousands who have been watching the whole summit through live streaming. So I can say that this is a good initiative, a good start in bringing a good cooperation and promoting public diplomacy among the next generation. So I have a lot of feedback from the participants even today. So this is something that needs to be encouraged, that needs to be promoted, and it should be sustainable to bring the young generation, the senior citizens, the academia, the politicians in one place, and gives them a chance to share their ideas, promote cooperation, promote entertaining different ideas and views of different corners of the world. And so by far we can say that this summit was successful in promoting the cooperation and entertaining the idea of public diplomacy. Clarisse, thank you.
Thank you so much, Tariq. And of course, we continue with the discussions and of course bringing relevance to the diverse panel discussions that happened in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Coming back to you, Dr. NEGASH LAGOKE. Here we just heard Tariq saying that young people in Africa were largely represented in the summit, which was relevant for them, and we know that young people represent a huge reservoir for the total emancipation of the African continent. You actually, as a keen promoter of the Ubuntu philosophy, we want to bring into context how the ideals or the vision of the World Public Summit, particularly in Africa, ties with the Ubuntu philosophy, and how can it be like a catalyst to try to expand the scope of public diplomacy within Africa to be able to help position the continent at the level where it's supposed to be, especially with the changing dynamics in the way relations are being probably negotiated into this society and world at large.
Okay, thank you so much. Your question is going to help me say what I want to say about the summit, and I do not want to say that in my in the first question or first answer. One of the things that I really liked about the Public Diplomacy Summit, I was, and you know me a little bit, I shared that with you, and so I'm not flattering YANINA here or CHIPATA now that I recognize you now. I saw you in Addis Ababa. I was the one teasing you, but because of your outfit, for a second I did not recognize you. Anyway, so I was pleased because we do work on the Ubuntu philosophy. I am trying to promote the Ubuntu philosophy as the philosophical ideology of Pan-Africanism in the 21st century. We want Ubuntu to be the pillar of Africa's integrated development. Also, we want the Ubuntu philosophy to be the ethos of the campaign for liberation, and then to be the essence of a cultural revolution in Africa. And then as we were doing that, I was in Ghana in June during the conference about reparations 2026. I was also in Ghana in 2023 about the conference on reparations. Just to mention those two, it was difficult for me and people who think like me to ask the drafters to insert in the proclamations of the conferences the importance of the Ubuntu philosophy as the paradigm around which to think about the campaign for reparations. And then I see myself now in Addis Ababa, and then I see in the concept note and in the final communique of the Public Diplomacy Summit, and I saw the Russian ambassador, and I saw I forgot the name, but Simirnova, the chairperson of the World People's Forum, World People's Assembly. And I also saw this guy, the chair of the Secretary General of the Global Black Center, just to mention those three. And I saw that said in the documents that the Public Diplomacy Summit claimed the Ubuntu philosophy. I was really, really, really pleased with that. And then I shared that with people because what Ghana could not do, Ethiopia did. And then what Africans could not do, some Africans in Eastern Africa, with the involvement of the Russians, claimed the Ubuntu philosophy as one of the values around which to shape a new world, and as one of the values in order to use, in order to contribute to the building of a new world based on social justice. So if there's any other thing I can say after this, I want the listeners and then my co-panelists to know that I was extremely pleased with that because it is only through values that we can change this world. Because, and this is another point, I had spoken about that in the book that I wrote, the Pan-Africanism from Yesterday to Tomorrow and the Ubuntu philosophy, that it is through the values, common humanistic values, that we can change the international development paradigm, because right now it is led by neoliberalism that put emphasis on individualism, and then and so it is a little bit complicated. So and then Russia, India, China, they have similar values, just to mention those three. And then just one second. My introduction about the Russians, the Chinese, and then the Indians, they have similar humanistic values. We have me in Russia, and we have Satyagraha in India, and we have Confucianism in China. So those three values in those countries, and we have Ummah in the context of the Muslims who joined the BRICS. So what we think is that when nations, peoples, in the name of sovereignty, try to claim the essence of those respective human values, then this is how we can try to promote social justice and then humanity, and then to the detriment of neoliberalism, which puts emphasis on greed and then selfishness. I think that's the point I wanted to raise. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nyaka. Of course, let's try to link up this, what Dr. Nyaka just said with this question directed to you, Yanina. A topic has underlined safeguarding public diplomacy and multipolarity. And from what Dr. Nyaka said, we heard that we can only change this world by accentuating on core values that will bring meaning to the terms like public diplomacy. So being a key advocate of people-to-people connection, and of course from the opinion that of course this public diplomacy helped to unite people. So what do you think are those core public diplomacy values that the World's People's Summit needs to underline or stress on to be able to make it more practical and give it relevance in this polarized and very complex society, to make probably distinguish the concept of the World Public Summit from the existing think tanks and organizations that have been probably preaching or talking about without practical, human-to-human, decisions or successes to enhance connectedness in the world.
Yeah, thank you, Clarissa, and thank you, Professor, for very well, perfectly formulate statements of Ubuntu and the role of this deep concept, Pan-African concept, in shaping the main value which the summit brought on the table. What I just would like to add is that, on my opinion, values should be applied through common projects. And when we start preparations for us was very important to launch some common project between participants, mostly between Africans, and maybe with some help or some involvement of foreigners, which can apply common values to practical results. And I'm proud that we managed to do a great open call for African artists on the topic of unity, and we publish a very nice catalog of this event, of this exhibition. We opened this exhibition, so can you imagine that our participants, speakers from different African countries, they brought artworks from their countries, which were selected by jury to be shown on the event. And we opened this exhibition with big proud of the quality and diversity on the same time of promising African visual artists. This is one project I wanted to mention as an implementation of the idea of unity of Ubuntu. Other one I would like to stress also here is a project for 7 countries, 6 African countries plus Russia, on research of influence of River Zambezi in economical, social, and spiritual aspect on human development. And I feel that as soon we start this research, we will also see a lot of evidence of unity, Ubuntu practices, which 6 countries share, and it will be one of the topic of this final report of this research. So just my statement, my additional statement to what Professor just rendered is that I'm doctor of philosophy, I'm philosopher. This is my profession, but as soon I spent 5 years in Zambia, in Africa, I changed my mind, and I'm trying not to be only in theoretical part, but also do a lot on the ground, and yes, apply philosophy and spirit of unity with appreciation to diversity, to real common project between people. Even in public diplomacy, this is place for common project, international project of people united by common values. That's what I wanted to add.
Quite amazing. Just to note, ladies and gentlemen, that the Addis Ababa summit was just not the first, but then it was, according to report, a continuation of decisions of the first World Public Assembly, New World of Conscious Unity, that took place in the Russian Federation, particularly in Moscow, the year 2025, for a continuation of how to actually give meaningful connections at the level of society, think tanks, NGOs, and to make shape the world into a better place. And coming back to you, of course, CHIPATA, you quite mentioned about the fact that the summit provided a platform, a scope for engagement or discussions that will, bring more investment and, of course, growth and development. So we are still coming back to seeing how the communique or the final communique of the summit can be more practical in seeing the realities of the changes, especially at the economic aspect of the African continent, economic emancipation of the continent and the economic mechanism. So in your own perspective and an economic expert, how do you think that these people-to-people connections and discussions can help to probably shape a new mindset, economic mindset that will accompany not just the philosophical emancipation of the African continent, but yet the economic emancipation to ensure that Africa discovers practically its economic prowess and its economic aspect of Pan-Africanism to make it sustainable in attaining the continent's developmental agenda, particularly 2063, especially the one that falls under the platform, the African Continental Free Trade. Hello. The question was directed to you, MAVUTO CHIPATA, please. Your mic is muted, please. We can't hear you.
Oh, thank you. My apologies for that. Okay. Yes, I think that the outcome from the meeting in Addis Ababa is really relevant to Africa today than ever before. The view is that Africa must tell its story. It must be the one to narrate its story and not let other continents who may not have the better appreciation of Africa tell their story. One of the outcomes from the discussion at the summit was that we must encourage, as others have indicated, cultural exchange, the role of communication, the role of the media in affording the story for Africa, so that what we are telling the world there is what opportunities lie in Africa, which can mutually benefit the other countries. And also that we need to structure investment to Africa in a different way, which can result in a different outcome. In the past and historically, what has happened is that Africa has been the major source of raw material. But what you see is that whilst the raw materials are extracted from many African countries, the impact of this on the African countries has been very little. The new future, the new world that we envisage under the World Public Assembly with the cooperation between multiplicity of countries should be that will result in transfer of technology to African countries so that they are able to industrialize. If they are able to industrialize, the incomes for African countries, African people, can increase. If their incomes increase, it means they offer a bigger market for those countries that supply the technology. Through that kind of partnership, you see that there will be a symbiotic relationship where the providers of capital, the providers of technology benefit from the investment in Africa. Africa will have benefited by having the technology that enables them industrialize, that enables them have increased the incomes of its people. That way, that relationship will grow. So we think that the World Public Assembly, through its communique in Addis Ababa, will continue to preach and foster this relationship between African countries. I was also happy that a representative office for the World Public Assembly, the first of its kind, has been established in Zambia, for which I'm heading. And we hope through this, we will be able to channel the agenda for the World People's Assembly to ensure that investment in Africa is the correct one. The correct investment is that will change the lives of Africans and also change the lives of the investors, both of them moving in a direction where you reduce poverty in line with the global intentions of the world. That's all I can say for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Of course, bringing in new alternatives in the way the world relates or cooperates either among states or even at the level of, people to people. Coming back to you, Tariku, you were more engaged with the young people, which we already highlighted the importance of the young people in the African continent, and of course to be able to ensure that the advantages or opportunities of the World Public Summit are being understood and utilized to the fullest in Africa. It is imperative to ensure some sort of a shift in mindset and how to control information. I think this boils down to one of the topics discussed, information sovereignty. So in your own perspective and an advocate engaged with largely young people across Africa, how can these, the final declaration and or even the vision of the World People's Assembly be contextualized in Africa that will help transform the mindset of the young people to be in turn reduce aspects of radicalization and of course some sort of selective exposure by African youth, which sometimes becomes very cohesive and actually not meeting with the dictates of the African Union, of the peoples to peoples connection, and particularly the just ended World People Summit.
Thank you once again, Clarisse. I'm sure I'm audible to you. I really appreciate the point about radicalization and the sovereignty of information. Yes, of course, though our youth still is a potential for the future of Africa, but still the old narrative and one-sided the belief that information and technology should come from one side of the world that is already deep-rooted. So this one-sided view that information, technology, and development should come from one side is really hard, and it's really deep-rooted. What we call these days as the neo-colonial thought is really on the heart of the youth. So such summit and other summits will help us to advocate bipolarity and the use of public diplomacy, give us an opportunity to bring the youth and entertain different thoughts and try to give them a chance and review how their really thought is, functioning. Apart to this, I would like to entertain also one point, Clarice, that is the role of the elite. I do believe that apart the engagement and the role of the youth, the elite in the academia, the elite in the politics should, or I think it must be, it's their role in a way they raise the awareness of the youth and our society, clearly showing how our contemporary world is functioning. This is very critical and important point. So most of our youth, even I can say large part of our society is unaware how our contemporary world is functioning in terms of resource, in terms of information sovereignty, in terms of peace, in terms of sharing the resource, in terms of the global finance institutions are functioning. So I rather would like also touch the point that the elite role should be come to the front so that such summit, and of course this has been already touched in the communique, and it has been touched how the upcoming big events that are going to be held in Russia should be entertained. So our elites combined with our youth should work harder in giving attention, be motivated in understanding how contemporary world is functioning, how Africa is truly positioned in a way that ensure the prosperity of its society, how Africa is sovereign in properly utilizing its resource, its voice, its potential, and particularly, as you know, many scholars are still shouting, having the position in how in the Security Council, how Africa should the voice of Africa should be heard, and in different and multi important international institutions, the voice of Africa is still low. So I should also bring into attention that the role of the elite in utilizing such opportunities, such summit, and to be a voice of the youth, to be the voice of the poor, to be the voice of our envision, that is to see a prosperous Africa is very important. And one important side of tackling this hardest line, that's deep-rooted, culture and thoughts that information technology should come first from one side, is that we have to organize, repeat, and make sure that such a summit are sustainable and bring the youth to this podium, gives our elites to bring their voice to the community, gets the opportunity to come to the youth and make our community aware. So radicalization, information sovereignty is still our biggest challenge that hinder our youth to entertain different views. Clarisse, thank you so much.
Thank you. Just to let you know, ladies and gentlemen, if you are just tuning in, this is a global inside, of course, discursive and knowledge sharing program where we we get to give probably give context to the happenings around the world, and our focus this day is on the World People Public Summit under the banner of the World People's Assembly, and of course looking at how public diplomacies can be safeguarded in today's complex society, and of course looking at the final declaration that was adopted after the Addis Ababa summit that held from the 29th to the 30th of July 2026. What role, of course, can such a platform bring to the solving the many problems at the level of people-to-people connection, and of course how can this platform help to bypass some complexities or discrepancies existing among nations of the world to make the world a safe place and better heaven for humanity. I come back to you this time around, Yanina. Here we want to look at how the dialogue, of course, diverse dialogue championed in Ethiopia and elsewhere. It happened already in India. And of course, see how this can also ensure that the dialogue and mutual respect existing between people of the different nations can be strengthened, and in spite of the international relations having some sort of setbacks due to conflicting ideologies and the resistance to multipolarity by supposed traditional actors.
Thank you, Clarisse. I think it's time to speak not about dialogue, but rather use polylogue, which unite many voices. So polylogue, and this is our target. So we, as a World People's Assembly, provide platform for many voices, for polylogue, of different opinions and representative from different cultures, countries, points of view, yes, we unite more than 50 countries in Addis Ababa, and we targeted to listen the voice of each African country, but not all of them were represented. But we also was quite surprised that to participate in a summit and speak during the summit applied great voices from different parts of the world. So we listen voices of Chinese speakers, of Indian speakers, and from Latin America, from Cuba, from Brazil, but mostly the summit, it was a platform to listen African voices and even enrich and push cooperation between African communities, societies, to push common projects between African countries, because this is the let's say the main purpose of public diplomacy. It's not so we have official diplomacy between countries, and we have public diplomacy between NGO leaders, between people in different aspects. So we define more than 10 pillars of public diplomacy, like from sport and culinary to business diplomacy, media diplomacy, definitely youth, who are much open than like more advanced in age people, and all these pillars have the same DNA, multi like polar discussion, and polylogue, many voices who we can hear, we can appreciate, respect, and so unity, Ubuntu is next step. First, we have to appreciate our diversity and listen many voices. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Yanina. And coming back to you, Dr. NGAKA LAGOKE, we continue to stress on the importance of this platform in aligning with the liberation fight for the African continent. So in your own perspective, what do you think, or probably what role should be proposed the proposed public diplomacy, I beg your pardon, media platform play in shaping African narratives and actually, trying to, correct some misrepresentations, especially in line with Africa's religious values, cultural values, and how this will suit in the trajectory of a new Africa. I think these are some of the aspects which were already mentioned by Yanina, in line with how the World Public Summit will continue to enhance and support Africa's voice in shaping new realities in this ever-changing world.
Okay, I'm not sure if my answer is going to be exactly what you expect, but this is what I can say. And I think I said that in my previous answer. The most important thing is that the Public Diplomacy Summit claimed the Ubuntu philosophy. It was a very, very important moment because it was a big summit. Thousands of people were there, well covered by media. I saw people who came from Tanzania, people who came from Kenya, some people from Zambia, and then even from Ivory Coast. So it was an opportunity that contributed to position Africa's voice like in world affairs. What we need to do now is to lobby different groups about the importance of the platform itself. Because, like I said, I was not aware of the platform. It does not. I know it is a new one that, since it included Africa, but at the same time, if we are many to talk about the public diplomacy summit or the public diplomacy platform, the World People Assembly, and people can see that Americans and Russians, Indians, Chinese, and then people from different races are reunited around common humanistic values. We can certainly chart a new way or a new vision of the world, because we want a world of justice and freedom. So this is what I can say. It is that the burden is now on us to try and see how we can claim the Ubuntu philosophy in the context of Africa, or with other races and other people, how around the common humanistic values we can promote a world, a new world based on values that all of us share. Yes, when we talk about religions, it can be an issue because people have different issues, but even that, most of the important religions of the world, they have things in common. Then I'm not going to talk about the concept of spiritual unity that I elaborated in my book, but love, sharing, compassion, empathy, all those values are values promoted by all the religions. And then we can see the secular aspect of those values within the Ubuntu philosophy, or within Confucianism, Uma, and within Satyagraha. And then so this go beyond the religious divide, and then claim the values that the religions claim, and then the values of humanistic value systems for us to think about a better world. So this is what I can say, Clarisse, to answer your question.
Under common values, and how these actually values can save humanity. In the same perspective, we continue to revisit the point highlighted amidst the plethora of aspects discussed at the summit. So we are looking at the proposed African network of public diplomacy, the African network of young leaders, and of course, we now see how this can be made accessible, probably maybe transform into accessible platform for practical engagement with you, CHIPATA. Let's see the relevance of these projects that were, came to the fore at the close of the Africa's Maiden World Public Summits. stressing on the African network of public diplomacy and African network of young leaders. And of course, you are already a front, probably a leader of one of those platforms. How can this transform into practical engagement that would translate into feasible change, especially in line with solving largely the problems of the young people in Africa, unemployment, disinformation, and of course, among other aspects that keep the young people or Africans entrapped in interpreting these global processes that are quite complex?
Thank you. So the World Public Summit in Addis Ababa, we had the opportunity also to listen from the leaders of the young people. And the challenge for young people, and for which Africa's population, if not 60% to 70%, are young people, means that there's a greater challenge for young people today in Africa than we have ever had before, with an expectation that Africa's population will reach around 1.4 billion in the next 20 years or so. So the real challenge we are dealing with here, which the World Public Assembly is trying to promote, is the future for the young people. What future are we going to create for them? So we need to create the opportunities now for young people to be employed. And that we have to do today, because the more we delay in doing it, it means that the challenges for our young people in going to the future are actually increasing. So the summit did bring together companies from Russia who are involved in different industries, where they have identified opportunities for Africa to get technology and work with African companies to create industries. These industries then can form the basis of creating employment, which can help young people for the future. So the network in terms of industry, culture, sport, music, all these opportunities which offer young people to express their talent and be able to be involved in economic affairs, which can improve their future livelihoods. So we are hoping that part of this process, where we are setting up, the World Public Assembly is setting up representative offices in Africa, should help identify opportunities, first of all, within and between African countries themselves. They should be able to remove barriers to business, barriers of language, barriers of trust that tend to interfere with business. Through a platform like this, we are able, today I'm able to speak to Professor NGAKA from Ghana, or is he from Senegal, TARIKU from Ethiopia. When we break these barriers of trust, we can do business between African countries and create opportunities for our young population today, so that we can all have a better future for our children. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And how can the decisions arrived at the World Public Summit translate into, affecting positively the governance structures of respective nations in Africa? This moment of a great revolution, that is what we are seeing in the Sahel region and in Namibia and other countries that have decided to embrace this change in line with the realities of the global world. Now, back to you, Tariku. Let's now see how youth leaders can actually through their engagements with such platforms like the World Public Summit and other think tanks can help to fast track major policy changes that will in turn provide a more fertile environment to probably enhance this connection at the level of people to people aspects, so that some of the problem which Chipata just Chipata, I beg your pardon, just highlighted, to be able to solve these problems of young people across Africa.
Thank you, Clarisse, for this wonderful question. Yes, it's true. Uh, for policy change and other improvements in Africa, basically, it's very important to notice that there is a lack of, sufficient information, valid information for the youth to realize how our world is actually functioning. So basically, this summit has given the chance to the youth and really a good exposure to entertain different views from, as it has been said earlier by my colleagues from Latin America, from Russia, and from different African fellow brothers and sisters. So the use to enhance the policy, Clarisse, I should say that it's very important to be attentive, and it's very important to be curious and very open-minded to understand how actually what happened in the other corner of the world really affects the use of life. For example, what every decision in the big economic and financial institutions like IMF, World Bank, and in the UN agencies, and how it affects the life of the youth should be bring to the agenda and to the table of discussion of the youth. As you know, the youth is mostly trapped and occupied by the social media, particularly the TikTok and other social media platforms, while there are big and major and key challenges that the youth need to address. For example, the opportunity for skill, opportunity for information, network, and etc. So the use itself to enhance the policy should first be exposed for such summits, such platforms, which I encourage, which need to be very sustainable, so that they will get a chance to be aware of how something happened in the other corner of the world in one or the other way affects its life. For example, you may take a recent conflict in the Middle East, Iran and America and Israel. So how this affects the life of Africa, how it affects the future of the global platform should be the attention of the youth. This is how we are hardly currently working that bringing this to the attention of the youth. Unless, Clarisse, unless the youth is aware of that, what is happening somewhere is affecting their life. How it really affects their future is not coming to their conscious awareness. It's very hard to the youth to influence the policy to wish prosperous Africa. So such people to people connection enlighten the youth, give a chance to the youth to open their eyes, to be exposed to meet elites like friends of mine who made Irinadi. So I encourage, and this is something even my organization and me myself have been working for a long, that opening the eyes of the youth so that they will be aware how our current world is functioning, how the problem is connected not in the region only, but from global perspective, and so that they will get a chance to be open-minded and to influence policy in their respective states. Thank you, Clarice.
Will ensure a shift in many aspects that can yield positive results. I think this aligns with the mission of the World People's Assembly, ensuring the connectivity of people, giving importance to cultural values, spiritual values, and how dialogue between people to people can engage or increase civility and build a strong human centric relationship that will help position society in a better place. We continue to see how this can actually help to change the narrative, especially at the areas beyond the major cities. With you, Yanina, because when we want to look at the mindset aspects, which according to some pundits has actually affected and continue to affect African societies in today's world, we want to ask how the information sovereignty that was discussed among others in Addis Ababa can be able to transcend major capitals to to the local communities, so that the engagement of the World People's Assembly will also have some practical impact on how people react to the realities are happening around them.
Thank you, Clarice. Thank you. I would like to come a bit back for colleagues who shared their ideas from youth perspective, from business perspective. I would like to step back with my points about next steps. Yeah, definitely. Next steps should be done in an African continent. I mean, next steps for implementation of results of our summit in Addis Ababa and communique we adopted there. And one important next step was launched, was done and signed during the summit. So World People's Assembly opened first African representative office in Zambia, and Mr. CHIPATA is the representative of World People's Assembly in Zambia. And on Tuesday, there will be a presentation of programs and projects which World People's Assembly will implement in Zambia in the nearest future. As I know, it will be some meeting and talk about Zambezi River research, about public diplomacy university, which works under the umbrella of World People's Assembly, again, to unite young people, to build necessary skills for public diplomats, for public leaders, and also about our contest of public diplomacy leaders. So this is a real step, because we have to come deeper. So decision makers, great experts were united in Addis Ababa, but now they come back to countries, and they should build new narrative and communities around this narrative in the countries. I hope TARIKU is a young leader and very much charged by values and inspired by opportunities. Also will open representative office of World People's Assembly in Ethiopia. And I feel that it may be up to 10 during 2027. And we in the World People's Assembly very much focused on make this platform sustainable. and make World Public Summit Africa every year, most probably in Addis Ababa, but it's not decided yet. But also we are ready to do country level of public summits, maybe not such big as we did in Addis Ababa, as like for around 2,000 people. But why with the same agenda of youth, Ubuntu, common projects, new level of leadership, and some other topics like common business project, new sovereignty in media. We cannot come to countries. I think it's also one of possible step of implementation of the ideas. And when we come with ideas to countries and communities, we can find much more support and much more energy of people who believe in the same.
Of course, it is imperative that in the world of greater global transformation, platforms like the World People's Assembly and of course the World Public Summit should be put in place to ensure that the dialogue, constructive dialogue, is actually advanced to help the world to remain together in spite of the turbulence happening at the international level, affecting the philosophy of globalization, of course, asking many questions. So it is still very imperative to see the role of the civil society organizations in ensuring meaningful public diplomacy that would not be, misquoted or misinterpreted as some sort of a tool for influence, like what has been happening lately with criticisms. I don't know if we should use that word, that the African media and other independent voices have been actually facing, particularly by championing a different narrative that suits with the realities of their respective areas or countries or continents. And that is why with you, Mr. MAVUTO CHIPATA, we want to understand the deeper role of the World People's Assembly or Public Summit, which you are representing actually in Zambia, how this can help to participate practical and meaningful public diplomacy that will not be misinterpreted as some sort of a tool for influence by others who do not really align with the actors of the People's Summit. We understand the conflict in terms of disinformation, misinformation, and even fake news around new dispensations or perspectives like what we witnessed in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia recently.
Thank you for that question. In the context of the current global events, as I may have alluded earlier, the dynamics have changed. The view that you should be opinionated by a particular section or continent is an odd view. What will help Africa is to be open about the new world. We have, first of all, to define ourselves in terms of what does Africa want for itself and for its people. And this, through this platform of the World Public Assembly, we can help to unite different African countries with different tribes, with different historical backgrounds towards a common purpose. Once that common purpose has been agreed, it can be adopted by the African Union as the values or the basis on which any relationship with any continent or any country should follow these basic values. If we have defined those values in terms of what we want as Africa, the issue of what we communicate to the media, through the media, or what our media here in Africa communicates will be very clear. That is why it is important as we promote the representative office, which is of its kind in Zambia. Our role will be to encourage writers, journalists, artists to portray the values that we want the outside world to know about Africa. To the extent that ourselves as Africans, we don't define what we want, then we will always be at the risk of being influenced by an agenda of another country. And there is nothing sinister about other countries trying to influence what you think about them. This is normal. But Africa also must have an agenda of developing communication or programs that will help other continents to see Africa the way it wants to be seen itself. So I see a great opportunity, a great work to be done here without mixing the political aspects of it. Civil society, business leaders, cultural experts coming together, sharing common values of Ubuntu. You are because I am. If we share these values, everything else should be able to fall in place. We'll be able to do business that helps our people and not business that impoverishes our people. Thank you.
Indeed, businesses that help the people and not the one that impoverish the people, and which is a very vital. How can this constructive dialogue translate into some practical, platforms that will create more avenues for business to business discussions and of course business to people discussions to help to solve the core problems of humanity. And back to you, Dr. NEGASH LAGOKE. If we talk public diplomacy today, we cannot also undermine the aspect of civility in public diplomacy. And in this context, we want to look at civility in the sense that it helps to, to build some sort of a strong cooperation among nations, not just at the level of mutual respect, but a civility that will help to actually reduce the tension and provide a scope for better cooperation and co-relations among nations of the world. And I think that is the primary role of the non-governmental organizations, among other think tanks that are actually in place to see how away from the government to government engagement, they can champion real dialogue that will help to, de-escalate global tensions and also provide a safe scope for interconnection between countries, between nations, and between humans. And this I would love that Dr. NEGASH, you accentuate again more on it with the concept of the Ubuntu philosophy, which I think is at the core of this discussion, since no nation, nobody can function as one. We need each other to actually correlate and champion the shared and common agenda for humanity.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you very much, Clarisse. This is your questions are brilliant. This one is one of the most brilliant ones. How I'm going to say it. We know that internationalism has always been part of the history of mankind. that people have come together for peace and justice in the world. I can talk about, for instance, the anti-apartheid movement, which was a people's-led movement, even though political parties and political leaders were involved. Even though they did not use the word public diplomacy, it was an expression of public diplomacy. And then now with this particular platform, one of the good things about this platform is that it empowers people. It creates the space for people to communicate or to discuss, to look at each other, and then to see how they can do things together around common values. It is a little bit different from the militancy of internationalism that we see, for instance, in the case of the campaign against the American blockade against Cuba, for instance, or in the context of the campaign against apartheid, for instance. Here, even though the militant aspect can be part of the conversation, it is more about people empowered, engaged in a platform, in a space, in order to have an impact on the leaders of the world so that they may sway the decisions or the positions. That is one of the beautiful things about the Public Diplomacy Summit or the World's People Assembly. The other element, and CHIPATA said it a little bit, I just want to, not that I'm going to rectify, but even before we go on the world stage, to try and see how we can work with other races or other peoples, we have to have that sense of oneness in the context of Africa. This is how I started this conversation. We think that Ubuntu is a Pan-African concept which can contribute to the spirit of oneness of the African people, or it can be that pillar of Pan-Africanism in the 21st century. This is how we start the conversation. Now, in the context of the dialogues of civilizations, in the context of the dialogues of the communion of civilization, we go there as one people, because Ubuntu put emphasis on the linguistic, on the cultural and linguistic unity of Africa, of the African people. We go there with something that defines us, something that is part of the African identity, which is Ubuntu. Now, in that concert of the civilizations, in the concept of the communion of civilizations, we can propose Ubuntu. The Chinese can come with Confucianism. The Russians will come with Mir, and then the Muslim can come with Uma, and the Hindus can come with Satyagraha. And this is how we will see the humanistic values that I just spoke about have common things in common, community, and then justice, empathy, many other elements. This is how we need, Ubuntu can be that voice of Africa, that identity of Africa, as we try to shape the new world. That's why, like I said in the beginning, that's why I appreciate particularly the fact that the World's People Assembly, be in the concept note or be in the final communique, claimed the Ubuntu philosophy. Now, and I'm going to end with that. The burden, it is on all of us. CHIPATA spoke about that a little bit. You too, Clarisse. It is now, if people like me, we've been working on Ubuntu and with many other people. And then for us, I was emboldened when I saw that Ubuntu was claimed in Ethiopia. It's going to give me more energy to do what I have been doing. And then sometimes for some limited success, sometimes with frustration. We're going to continue. as we met CHIPATA, we met YANINA, we met many other people who now understand that Ubuntu can be that platform for the unity of Africa, for the renaissance of Africa world. And then I have some ideas, some projects. I'm not going to talk about that here, but we will keep in touch with those who have been doing the work so that public diplomacy can be something more important or as important as internationalism or as important as soft power, as important as hard power, as important as many other elements that we see nations, peoples, and countries do.
And I think we have some sort of about 20 minutes or less than 30 minutes to still be together. So it is imperative that we continue to chart the way forward, see how together with diverse opinions and, narratives, a new trajectory of people-to-people engagement can be attained that will, be very different, not just symbolically but practically in solving the many problems of the world, especially in the context of the African continent that hosted its maiden World Public Summit, of course, a summit that actually valorized Africa's position, its place in helping to shape the new global realities. And this is one of the reasons why the summit held in Africa's diplomatic headquarters of Addis Ababa. And of course, after the summit, what happens? How does this translate into changing the way Africans look at themselves? First of all, before welcoming the traditional narratives that have always positioned Africa as a receiver and not that continent that can be a beacon of new realities that will enhance global transformation. And with this highlighted, I will come back to you, TARIKU. NEGASH, we're still looking at how such platforms will translate, especially in the nearest future, towards policy or real policy decision making that will equally solve, if not entirely, practically and probably subtly, the many problems that the African continent is facing at the moment. And that is where I would love us to discuss this with you, TARIKU, the role of the African Union, because when we're talking about the African Union, we're looking at that institutional body that brings together the whole continent that is seemingly divided in line with the supposed probably map of the colonizers. But now we are in a new era. How can we actually solve the problems of the past and also have the African Union take interest in such a brilliant presentation by the World Public Summit, acknowledging the role of the continent, not at the government level, but ensuring that they give some sort of importance at the lower level, particularly among people that can actually help in the trajectory of Greater Africa through its transformation in every aspect.
Thank you, Clarisse. I think you have raised one of the very important questions, the role of AU. To be honest with you, this summit has just given me a good lesson that when it comes to AU, I think there is a lot we need to work. So we need to knock the door and push the leadership at AU level that such narratives that should be entertained properly. So of course, we have seen a lot of representations in the summit from the African Union side. We have a positive reaction while we organize the summit with my colleague YANINA, but I think there should be a lot to be done, among ourselves, among the EU at organization level and at state level. There are a lot to be done yet, and which requires our leadership. I think the communique explicitly indicated that AU and its member states, the youth, the elites in Africa should come up together and work together and properly leverage every opportunities, particularly this assembly and the summit. Talking about the way forward, which is also another good point that you raised. So we have to keep this momentum with the leadership of the headquarters from the World People Assembly with our colleague and the good leader Yanina, and it's really a good opportunity to see that African office already has been opened in Zambia, which we are also working. Of course, we have also a lot of ideas which we are not going to mention right away, but there will be a surprise very soon, even before the second World People's Assembly, the General Summit in Moscow. We will surprise you teams. So we are, hoping to see the other African unit, African office here in Addis, because as you know, Addis is the seat of African Union. Addis is also the seat of different international and multinational organizations. So we are working in keeping this momentum, keeping this energy, keeping this synergy as well, and keeping the momentum to bring all awakened and motivated our colleagues, the youth, the media. Maybe you have seen it, more than 27 media outlets and the mainstream media has covered this summit. It is really one of the biggest news coverage in Addis. So it's very important to reach the attention of the leadership of the AU. It is very important to reach the attention of the elite, the academia, and the universities, and keep the momentum. Talking about the way forward, one more important thing that I would like to add is that CLARISSE, unless such motivations, such initiatives combined with a project that has an impact, that has a measurable result, we might not get results as expected. So in our heart, there are a lot of projects aligned with the mission of the assembly, aligned with the mission of the summit. So we will come up with a lot of projects. As you have heard, we are with CHIPATA and YANINA, we have initiated a network of public leaders of African youth, and there are also other projects up to come. So we have to combine our initiative, we have to combine our communique and every single ideas and thoughts to a project so that we will have a chance to measure the outcomes and properly impact the thought of our community and work to the prosperity of Africa. I thank you.
Measure to what extent the objective of the World People Public Summit, of course, the World People's Assembly, are made to ensure that it's not just a symbolic platform, but rather a more practical platform that while having interconnectedness among people, it's also ensuring on the ground realities which are very positive in meeting a shared future for all. We are culminating this discussion, but then we always go with some recommendations and the way forward, and I will kick off with you this last phase with you still, Yanina, as one of the organizers of this very important platform. It is imperative to note, like Tariku mentioned, there is something there is one thing about media coverage, but then how the media interprets events of the summit, it's also very imperative. And then the effect of it on society and of course in the minds of the people is also another aspect. So now let's try to look at some parameters or maybe recommendations that maybe the summit or probably the platform is putting together to ensure that there is not some sort of misrepresentation or misinterpretation of the activities of the World Public Summit, and how this will not create some sort of conflict of interpretation in the minds of people who cannot actually navigate through the complex world of communication. And of course, we're talking about the internet, where we see news flying everywhere and interpreted differently. How can we ensure a follow-up to make sure that the vision, the mission of the World People's Assembly are met without being entangled in the complex web of the global reality?
Thank you, Clarice. I have 2 points to share. First is that, yes, thank you to media coverage in Addis, in Ethiopia. But in Africa, we reach millions of viewers, and also more than 170 publications, original publications. And I think it's a great success, because one of the most popular title of articles was "From World Cup to World Public Summit." It was funny, but it showed that yes, journalists in different African countries, they were engaged in this open dialogue, straightforward ideas. Maybe people a bit, even journalists, yeah, they like some controversial intrigues and manipulations, maybe, many of them. But maybe also that there is a place for positive agenda, something we can do for us, for our communities, for our country, for our continent, just to be on the right side. Because in many countries now, it's in Africa, the elections are very near, like in Zambia next week, and there are a lot of let's say controversial content in the media, and we very much satisfied and appreciate what African media were done for the summit. And secondly, so for representation of results, as already, thanks to Tariku, he already mentioned, then about 1 month, we all will unify, speakers, and hopefully, Clarisse, you too, we will be all together in Moscow for our World People's Assembly, the main event of our organization. And we will be in charge of sharing main results of our African summit with general public. In November, we will have World Public Summit Arab World. And then we will have Europe. And in a global landscape, I'm partly African. I spent here many years, and I have kids here. I'm working for charity, for general education, rural education, and girls' education. So, but in a general landscape, we have to advocate our results. We have to find a way how to share and engage more right people to implement it in Africa and for Africa. So in September 18-19, under the leadership of our global leaders, Andrei Beleninov and Svetlana Smirnova, we will unify again in Moscow. I feel like about 160, 70 countries, more than again, 5,000 people. And there we will work as a team who advocate results of African Summit. Thank you.
Thank you so much, dear Yanina. Indeed, in Africa and for Africa, it's about, of course, learning internationally and applying locally to ensure that actually it suits the context of the environment. In the same perspective with you, MAVUTO CHIPATA, we want to look at, the way forward. How can this summit be some sort of a torch bearer or a beacon for new realities or practical realities that will affect Africa in every aspect, in the aspect of governance, especially at the level of the non-governmental organization, and which can translate practically to the level of the government, and of course how it can also go to align with the overall philosophy of building the Africa we want with the right mindset, and of course the right resources are already there.
Thank you again. So through this interaction with different cultures, different peoples of the world, this would now help remove some of the stereotype and complexes that Africans might have had from history. We must run away from the thinking that we were once enslaved because many other people and many other societies were enslaved. It's not only Africans. Yes, the scales might be different. We must also run away from the thought of colonialization. It happened, and we were not the only ones who were colonized. I mean, great empires existed in this world, and they colonized each other. So Africans should not keep on looking back to this event. We should take it away from our mind. And I think the World People's Assembly, through interaction of different societies, different races, helps to demystify this thinking that what is important for us now is the future we can create. And the World People's Assembly brings together different professionals, scientists, educationalists. Africa must focus on how can we make sure that we now focus on science, education, because only through science can we be able to translate our natural resources into productive goods and services that can transform the lives of our people. So the partnerships that we create, we forge with Russia, China, Europe, should be now at that level that we understand that what we need as Africa is the ability to translate our natural resources like minerals into value-added goods and services that can translate the lives of our people. So I believe that going forward and through this continued relationship, we expect that people-to-people relationships between Russia and Africa and China will result in technological transfer, educational programs that makes people more aware of the environment and be able to improve the lives of their people. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that valuable insight, Mr. MAVUTO. And let me come to you, Dr. NEGASH LAGOKE, concluding the phase of today's discussion. When we look at Africa today, we see, I don't know if we can categorically say that there are some sort of, discrepancies in terms of ideologies, in terms of alignment, especially in line with foreign policy and other aspects that have some sort of international connection. But now we want to look at some sort of recommendations that can be drawn from the recent summit in Addis Ababa that will help to fix this, diplomatic discrepancies in Africa, and also, most importantly, the discrepancies that exist among, people of the African continent, to ensure that they have, a common ground for interaction with, be it the Western alignment or the Eastern alignment, putting in place the African agenda.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a privilege to conclude on this panel. So when you were talking about, when you used the expression, the Africa we want, which is a phrase that you used with regard to the Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. Even though that agenda claimed Pan-Africanism and then acknowledged the importance of values or value systems, the Agenda 2063 did not claim any particular endogenous African value system, as you see. So, and it is important then to say, for instance, that the organizers of the public diplomacy summit put it in the communique, in the concept note, that Ubuntu is one of the expressions of African values. We're not saying that it is the only one. There are several, and today I do not want to talk about many of them. Maya in the Malinke language, Ibe, Igwebuke in the Igbo language. There are several that exist that put emphasis, on the values of community and then interconnectedness. But Ubuntu was or is the most popularized one, thanks to Nelson Mandela, Desmond Tutu, and all the people in the world who claimed it and then who use it in the different policies. So the fact that the World People Assembly acknowledged the importance of Ubuntu, I'm telling you, Clarisse, it is a turning point. This is how I see it. It is a very, very important element, because when in my networks, I've been talking to people, I say, you know what, this is what people said in Addis Ababa. Many people were surprised. Some of the people I've been having conversation with around the campaign for reparation, or the conference for reparation, I told them, I sent them a screenshot of the communique so that they can see that was putting emphasis on Ubuntu. So Ubuntu is becoming, again, thanks to the World People Assembly meeting, a very important element. And it was, based on what I'm seeing, it is going to be mentioned, a reference to, or claimed again during the meeting that is going to take place in Russia. So this is going to be a very important moment. And these are, I call that the favorable historical factor, which is going to position Ubuntu so that those who were maybe reluctant, hesitant to claim Ubuntu, they can become more comfortable in claiming that philosophy, which is about the identity of Africans, which is about the cultural and linguistic unity of Africa. Now, when we do that, I know that there is a debate between either we go east or we go west. That was during the Cold War. Today, even though we don't use, those cardinal points, we can see those who want to align themselves with the West, with America, and those who want to align themselves with Russia and China and many other independent nations. We, as Africans, we have only one thing to say, that we are not trying to align ourselves with any particular cardinal point. We take the best from each, but at the same time, our voice is a voice of sovereignty. It's a voice of identity. It is a voice that wants to make way into international fora. And then the World Public, the World People Assembly is a very important platform that gives the opportunity to Africans who are thinking about the sovereignty of Africa, who are thinking about the cultural resolution of Africa, who are thinking about the African Renaissance in order to express themselves around the Ubuntu philosophy, which is becoming gradually the expression of the African voice. Thank you.
Indeed, the expression of the African voice, and we end with you, Tariku Nagash. Of course, what is the way forward, particularly as we continue to champion Africa's agenda, especially for its, diverse, vibrant, young population, in line with the dictates or the preamble and mission vision of the World's People's Assembly?
Thank you so much. We had a very wonderful time, and your questions are very profound. So, coming to the conclusion and or way forward, as I mentioned earlier, it's very important for all of us, particularly to the young generation, that time is running. We are in the age of a very competitive world. So our world is changing dynamically. You see changes every moment, every year. So ignoring what's going on around and what is the intention of, I can say, the global south or north is not the time. It's not appropriate to ignore what's going on around. So the way forward is that the youth should be conscious, very conscious, and very thoughtful in leveraging properly in this big summit, big stage. So we are taking notes. We are just, preparing our strategic documents that align with the public summit that has been conducted in Addis, and we will also expect to get a lot of takeaways from our biggest and final and grand summit, which is going to be in Moscow. So this takeaway will lead us crafting strategical documents. For example, for the coming 3 years, for the coming 5 years, we have to come up with a very important strategic document that can really impact the thoughts and the narration among the youth, and to be focused, to be attentive in what's going around them and how it impacts their life to come is our assignment. So we'll take this assignment, we'll take this narrations and information to our networks. And of course, I do believe that this network will grow with the coming 5 to 6 years in collaboration with CHIPATA and other colleagues. We will increase and deepen our networks among other African fellows, so that we will properly address the importance of public diplomacy, the importance of promoting bipolar world order, how it affects the life of the youth, and how it affects the African society will be our takeaway and an assignment. For sure, we will have good support from our friend Yanina and from the headquarters in the assembly as well. Thank you very, very much for having me and for such a wonderful conversation, Clarisse. And thank you, CHIPATA and Dr. and Yanina as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for the insightful contribution, of course, and reiterating on the discussions that happened at the Africa's diplomatic headquarters, that is Addis Ababa, under the auspices of the World People's Assembly and the World Public Summit Africa, its maiden edition. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to actually leave by reiterating the mission of the World People's Assembly, which mission is of course an affirmation of the unity of the peoples based on spiritual and moral values and shared responsibility for the future of humanity. And of course, its mission is the assembly of the people of the world sees the future as a space of conscious unity in which peoples and cultures interact within the logic of co-creation, respect and responsibility, which of course now align with the goal to promote the formation of new contours of international partnerships as a conscious unity of peoples based on the principle of shared responsibility for the future, respect, and the preservation of the fundamental spiritual and moral value of humanity. And it is on that note, ladies and gentlemen, that we draw curtains into today's edition of your discursive program Global Insight, brought to you, of course, by Globus. And do have a wonderful moment. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tariku.
See you also.
So we talk.
No.
Thank you.
This program was brought to you by Globus.